Good morning, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Universal Energies. My special guest today is Mr. Keith Goodwin, and we're going to be talking about all aspects of healing. He comes under the name of Healing Academy, and we're going to be finding out what this makes and helps us in our lives, our everyday lives, why people need it, and maybe the belief structure to allow the energies to flow behind us. So, good morning, Keith.
Hi, Rob.
First of all, having known you for some time, I know that you operate under the name of Healing Academy. Can you explain that just a bit?
Okay, Healing Alchemy. Alchemy.
Alchemy, is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
sorry.
fair enough.
People may often make that mistake.
Right, okay. Yeah.
It's, alchemy is a very ancient term. It's one that uses meaning change. We think of like transformation. It's actually part of transmutation. It's going back to the old alchemists.
Right.
The legends of turning base metals into
gold.
gold.
Yeah.
And so from a spiritual relation to it, it means going from darkness to light. And that process is transmutation, where you go from a part of being in the dark, a light, into change, into transformation and being in the light, of being oneness. So it's all very symbolic, basically.
Right. Lovely.
That's alchemy.
Our listeners, I'm sure, would like to know about there are different forms of healing. How does yours differ?
How does it differ? It's a really good question, how it differs. Because whatever healing methodology anybody uses, they're going to be tapping into innate energies from source consciousness. You know, there's different kinds of cosmic healing, Reiki, spiritual healing, but you're going to be drawing from the same source energy. It's how we work with it. You know, I don't fix people. I support people to help themselves. Healing has been around for thousands of years. One of the main aspects, because I work from I call it an integrated shamanic approach, in the sense that whereas the basis in my work of 40,000 years of shamanic way of healing, it's bringing it through into the 21st century where we are now. Healing has been a passive process. People come along for healing, and the healer is there to tune into them and for them to receive the healing that they need. But even now, we like to think that people know a lot more about healing than ever they do, but it's extraordinary that they don't. People are unaware that when we tune into somebody, as we lay our hands or on their shoulders or around their body, their own energy system literally lights up. We actually operate like a light switch, and they bring in the energies that they need. Now, from where I'm working is, I noticed that you were speaking to John and Joe quite recently, and I want to keep that pagan perspective going, if that's all right.
Definitely.
One of the big areas that humanity feels is a sense of loss. For thousands of years, spirituality has been around sort of more orthodox approaches. I'm not knocking any particular religion, that's not what I'm here for. But spirituality is not religion. Religion is man-made. But orthodoxy has given a sense of humanity as being, somehow we've got dominion over the earth, that we are the top of the tree. From a pagan perspective, okay, everything all is the same energy. We're just different form.
I agree. Coming from the North American perspective, we are all as one.
Absolutely. Exactly. North American Indians, pagans. You know, they're just other side of the ocean, and we share a lot of similarities in approaches and the way we are. I went and saw a guy a few months ago. I occasionally do like home visits and that kind of thing. If people can't get out, that kind of thing, for appointments. And this gentleman had a religious belief, or his own religious belief, and yet he asked me what I thought God was. That's a really good question, you know, coming along. How long have you got? How long is a piece of string? And I looked out of his window of his apartment, his flat, and I just saw a tree, a beautiful big oak tree just standing there. And I said, there's God there. Well, he said, the tree? I said, yes. It's all part. We have been programmed and conditioned to as feeling as God, here we do this, don't we, alright? But actually it starts here. Any attunement that you have starts with the earth, because the earth is a spiritual being, so why wouldn't you tune in there?
This gets me very nicely to asking you a question about, does it matter if we have any beliefs or faith at all to become healers?
No, we don't. We don't need any, it's about the faith. It's building up self-confidence within as yourself. Faith is very subjective, isn't it, really? I think it's people. I was very early on in my healing work back in the 90s. People were coming along for healing from all different. Some people were Christians. People were coming from Islam, Buddhists, that kind of thing, and their experience of healing was very much their own. So someone might have might see. Oh, I remember one wonderful elderly lady come and saw me for healing, and she saw Christ on the cross when she was having healing. But a Hindu person might see a symbol of Krishna.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter. And for people, as for healers coming along, if they have got a specific religious faith, that's all right as well. So I don't see that there's an us and them regarding orthodoxy and New Age, if you can call it New Age.
I don't see that at all. I think maybe we're hung up on the concept of complicating things too much.
Absolutely.
But having said that, then if we could get on to how you first started, what significant, if there was any kind of significant event that pushed you this way?
Well, I think it was, I got into healing. It sounds good, it's like getting into used cars, isn't it? You know, literally, as a child I was very, very poorly. I had a lot of kidney problems, and I went through a lot of surgery later on in my adulthood, late 20s. And I got to a point where I was thinking, at the end of a fourth operation here, that your world's going out of control. What's happening? There's something more going on than me at the back end of a surgeon's scalpel. And after that last operation, I started going within the self. And I started doing like meditation, that kind of thing, and started going for healing at a local Hayden Center in Colchester. And that became, and I suddenly realised that there was a bigger world. I was bigger than what I thought I was. You see what I mean? There's much, much more. I got to that point, I suppose, of crisis, where I'm thinking, and often people turn to religion. They do that sometimes.
They do. I think some people need something.
They need something,
yeah.
something to focus on. And I found, and the most important part of all this was the first human contact I had at that healing centre. That was key. That was key. Because then you're making that very, very deep spiritual connection with another human being. And that person who is very understanding. It was only a drop-in at the Trinity Centre in Colchester, a name drop in there for them, because they're really good to me. And it was the person that I met there. We only had about 20 minutes, but I found there was humanity. That was the key moment. And suddenly I could connect. Wasn't a lot of time to talk. A few moments, enough for me to both feel I feel in a good space. And that's how it all started. Within about a month or two after that, there was a healing course coming on. And I went on that, and funnily enough, on that healing course, there was 4 of us on there, and one of those was a Roman Catholic priest. Interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting, but nothing surprises me. Because
No.
I will ask the same question as I did to our friend Neil Sutton. Do you think that there is a difference between spirituality and religion?
Spirituality is our innate essence of who we are. We're spiritual beings. Religion is man-made.
Yeah.
It's a construct. It's a method of belief. It's a belief system, a mode of faith. Which is, I'm not knocking it.
No.
I think it's, see, I'm sort of, from a pagan perspective, okay, I don't even refer to it as paganism. I call it the pagan way,
Yeah.
or being a shamanic practitioner, I call it shamanic way rather than Islam.
Well, everything was paganism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Before we came along
Yeah.
and we went down the road of what we're going now.
That's right. Yeah.
And unfortunately, then I've always told the people that I'm teaching that take nothing for granted and research and look into what you've got.
Absolutely.
And then you can make a decision, a conscious decision of whether it's right or wrong, or whether it doesn't resonate at all with you.
Absolutely.
But to go along here, say, like sheep, unfortunately we'll get to a point where we'll all fall off the cliff if we're not careful.
We can all become very fixated and fixed. I mean, I became sort of spiritually aware quite young when I was in the sort of early teenager. And my naturally went through was initially in the pagan way. That's how I was drawn to it as young. But through different circumstances and life experiences, I started the wheel, and I experienced different kinds of spiritual methods, experiences all the way round. It seems I've needed to do that to have a broad spectrum of understanding of people and cultures, and we're all working towards.
That's right.
We're all going there. It's just different branches of that tree.
That's right. I know in my life I've experienced different things, from being in silent orders with monks to living with the natives for a month and writing a book and that sort of. But they're all experiences that we get to where we are.
Absolutely,
now.
yeah.
So that gets me very nicely to where are you now?
Where am I now? I'm in the process of been a lot of change going on about in the manner that I'm working. People are coming along. A lot of therapists are coming along, funnily enough. The whole spiritual field is going through a state of flux at the moment. We're under increasing regulation out there to put us into our slots of who we are, which we need. Well, I can be sort of a bit controversial on this in the sense of the word, because we've got to be very mindful. Well, we're not alternative. We're not alternative to. We're complementary to orthodoxy, but we haven't got to prove anything to anybody. People come to us with all manners of difficulties, but even in the field of complementary medicine, that it's about how we practice. What is the nature of development? This is the other area that I've noticed, is that people are going along on courses to learn therapies and that kind of thing, but maybe the innate essence of spirituality is not there like it once was. I went through a huge life change, Rob, back in 2006. I'll get to the point in a minute. In 2006, and my whole life changed completely. I went through what I suppose to call is like a fallow time. If we go back to agriculture, you let the fields get themselves back in together again. That was about 5 years, and when I cut back to it, I noticed a lot of changes within the field. And it's not because my truth's any better than anybody else's truth, but it didn't feel quite, I don't know, something was out of balance with it. And it seemed to be that there was much more of a quick fix mentality coming along. There's a lot more therapies out, which is great. People need choice, it's a need choice. But are we losing the essence of what it is about being spiritual? I see a lot of therapies classed as treatments, and I understand that in the sense of the word. When someone comes along for working with me, it's not a treatment. It implies that I'm the expert and I'm treating that person to make them better. It all comes. The way the work is working now is I work a lot with, I call it decoding work, which is like cutting ties and changing the energies of our programming and conditioning from our childhood development. It's another way of helping the person co-create with the universe. They're taking much more, it's taking visualization work and making it much more co-creative for the person. It's also tying into ancestral healing, which is coming up a lot. That's a big part about the fact that karma can see a little bit airy-fairy. Where is that coming from?
I guess it's a lot to do with, we're all individuals, so therefore we all have, as you rightly say, the choices.
Yes.
Sometimes we have a dramatic thing in our lives that changes us and puts us on the course that we had no anticipation of before. Other times we go along and we hear from the word of mouth of maybe somebody who happens to be a healer like your good self, or we hear from somebody whose spirituality is quite profound, and we want to know more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever the situation is, as an individual, we'll make that choice. So let me ask you, before we go on too much, and that is that where do you operate?
Right, we're based at our home. We're at 8 Ash Green, just outside Colchester, on the Halstead Road. Everybody misses our house on the main road. It's one of those things you go by and have to come back to find it eventually. I used to work at the Hayden Center in Colchester, but now I do there like a drop in now and again. But based at home, I do workshops and self-development workshops. I'm running healing courses now for the Suffolk Healers Association, foundation healing courses. The main core of my work, as always, is people coming for healing work, that's I work with my partner Anna Gilbert. She's a healer as well, and I'm going to sort of plug my more beautiful half. She's by the end of this year, she'll be qualified as an integrated BACP counsellor by the end of the year, which is I'm very proud of her, and it will also give a wider scope for people coming for healing. Sometimes people can be a little bit hesitant coming along because they're not quite too certain about energies and spiritual. The word spiritual can sometimes be, but although
it's the list that gets me, anything to do with list on it.
I know. We do the mind, body and spirit circuit, and you don't ever get any stands for counselling because people aren't seen to do anything.
No, that's quite
so by the end of the year into new, we will be operating a more complete space where people can come along and feel that they can just sit and you can't begin the counselling process at that initial meeting, but you can introduce it and just the art of healing, whether you say it's orthodoxy, counselling or spiritual healing or whatever you want to call it, is being able to listen and connect with the person in front of you.
Absolutely.
That is key.
Absolutely.
It is key.
Now you mentioned before, Keith, very nicely too, that one of your people that came onto your courses happens to be Roman Catholic.
Oh yeah.
Later on we will have...
that was a course I was on as a student,
later on we will have people of different faiths here talking about different subjects. Healing will come on. And some people may call it a bit controversial for the situation, but I'd like to think that I'm asking questions that people think all the time, but don't ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with you, I know that taking funerals and things like that on a spiritual level, whereby the emphasis is put on the celebration of the person who has gone, rather than the drab situation that we have been brought up with not so long ago, and it comes through. So let me ask you, because it doesn't matter what faiths, what religious beliefs you have, we know today that the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Christian Church set up and do have active healing books. Now if they have active healing books, maybe the next step is to have active healing. What do you think about that?
If people could be supported through whatever it is, through crisis, whatever problems they're going through at any time, we are here to serve as part of our innate nature. I haven't got an issue with. I've got a very dear friend of mine. Her daughter is a priest, and from what get the feedback from that, she's doing some remarkable work. People, as I said before earlier on, there's room for orthodoxy.
Yes,
there's room for everything, and we'd like to think it's all going to be all wonderful and perfect, and life is not like that. Unfortunately not. But it's about honouring each other, and the fact that so I respect. It's about not what we preach. It's about how we act. That's ultimately what we're here for.
I think that you've perhaps hit the nail on the head when you say it for everybody.
Everybody.
And maybe the times will change as they go along. And we just need, like you and I, our seed to be planted for it to germinate and come to fruition when it's meant to be. Okay, right. We've heard a lot about other kinds of healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure the listeners will want to know that this name Reiki that has been bandied about.
Right, okay.
And I'm not saying, because I've had Reiki myself and benefited from it.
Okay.
Can I ask you that your healing that you do for your alchemy, is that based on any one particular form of healing, or does it encompass everything and the way your energies work, giving that participant the healing?
I think the latter part of what you just described it is. I mean, I'm spiritual healing trained. Okay. A friend of mine, been a Reiki master for many, many years. When I first started going for healing, I picked up a leaflet, right, at the Trinity Centre in Colchester, opened it up about Reiki, and it said Reiki is a Japanese form of spiritual healing, and that's how we've had. The thing is, with something like Reiki, it's been good for the whole, because it's. I think healing in this country was a bit closeted, in the sense of the word. It was a bit closeted around, not knocking churches or anything like spiritualism, but it was a bit enclosed. It brought it out into more public domain. That's really good. But ultimately, it's just healing. Somebody might argue that, and that's fine. We've all got our rights to distinguish what we think is right or wrong. But ultimately, the way I'm working with people is a very much inclusive level on how I've been trained. Innately, the energies are spiritual, okay, because we're tuning in to the earth as a spiritual being. So we're like the tree, and it's that working with that sense of loss that humanity has had with the earth is a vital part of their healing journey. So a lot of spirituality can still be taught a bit top heavy, like we're here.
Yeah,
we're here.
I appreciate.
So that's where I'm. So it's very much an inclusive level.
As an individual, and our listeners will all relate to this, how would you define energy?
Energy is life. Energy is life. Everything is all energy. We live in a sea of energy. So my spiritual energy here is I'm a human being. Again, we've got the trees and nature outside. Everything is all energy. People might still refer to us as God being up in the sky, but we're all encompassing each other. Energy, there's different kinds of energy, but it's all part of the great whole. There's healing energy, psychic energy, all those kinds of things. So energy is multifaceted, but it's all part of the one.
I was talking to someone who listeners might think as New Age, right? But having said that, they were saying like energy is a situation whereby if you look at God, he's an energy, and we go back to an energy, and I find that quite fascinating the way they described God, their belief as God, as an energy, giving out to this planet, to us, all that thought energy and thought process that we all have. Now, when you give people healing, how would you administer this? How would you do this?
From as I said initially, we were saying about healing being a passive process, right? So someone's coming for healing, but even so, at that initial stage, is to encourage that person, to remind the person, to explain what's going on, and to explain that when you tune into that person, that they are accessing the source consciousness themselves. So the healing is coming through me, out through my heart and my hands to their space, to them, but they are also opening up as well. But when I work with someone, the initial sessions are going to be about anchoring to the earth. So you actually go through a visualization process of actually rooting to the earth itself. You bring in the earth energies into the person's energy system, so they become anchored. And then they go through visualization of bringing maybe the sunlight as being the source of energy. You bring it into the body, and then you go through visualization process of sending the light where it's needed. And so they realise that they're at that very early stage that they can work or co-create with the energies, because they are part of it. And so they actually will go through a process of releasing any stresses, any worries, any fears, any physical problems. They will direct it at a cellular level, so we'll go through all the soft tissue in the body, the skeleton, all those kinds of things. That's a very basic first session, but that is a key area. And they can start to become more empowered. It's about self-empowerment, Rob. It's for them to understand that the healer's not fixing them. And from that is like a building block, and you step up to the next stage, which is about letting go at a deep energetic level with our chakra system, our energy system, and start working with the blocks on those levels, which have links and negative ties to our childhood development, early years, and through to adolescence and adulthood, but also to our ancestral level and our soul history level. So it's taking it a stage at a time.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to go, Robinson.
Do you know what, Keith? You are. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, and you, Rob.
A real pleasure.
And you, man.
But I have to say, the time is against us.
Okay.
But before I say goodbye to you, I must ask you one question.
Yes.
You say you're using your energies. Now, I've heard people say that they work with somebody
Yes.
that almost takes them over
Right.
and uses that energy
Right.
to boost their own, if you like, and give them that healing. What is your take on that?
When I'm working with someone to go through visualize, as my energy as my energy, my persona is working with that person. That's my human face. But I call it the spiritual team.
Yeah.
You know, the earth and the skies, nature's part of the team, but also we are on the levels of light, that beyond the physical level, we are supported, whether we call them spirit guides, angelic beings, that kind of thing. They all are drawn. When we have a healing session, we open it up with sacred space. We bring in the quarters, and we also call in the ancestors and the guides into that space. So they don't take me. I'm conscious state of attunement, but I'm also recognising that I'm there to help facilitate that sacred space.
Yeah. And I always find it fascinating because I do exactly the same with the medicine wheel.
That's right.
And the totem animals, and that we work those energies. Well, I have to say thank you very much.
Okay.
It was a pleasure
And
talking to you again.
Can I do a plug before we finish?
You can do a
quick plug. Right. Working with the Earth as a guided meditation CD, Healing Ourselves and the Earth Spirit, which we brought out last year. It's a way of, sometimes meditation can be quite difficult on your own, and it's a guided journey into the natural world. And it's the first track particularly is about getting in touch with Mother Nature and bringing in and start letting go of those heavy energies. And it's a self-healing for people who are experienced as well, but also for people just coming in. So we're very, very pleased with it. And the front cover is a spiritual painting. It was done by a friend of mine, and the actual music as well is actually done by a duo, and the guy tunes in spiritually.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
So I know time's there, but I just
and
got to plug it.
Friends, I have to say, that's no problem at all. If there was anything that needed to be, you get in contact with Keith, you can always get through on the Universal Energies page when this goes out, and I will pass on any messages to Keith. But for today, we say thank you very much for listening until we meet again.